Pack it up, boys. We found it. The video game of all time. Starfield. People can't stop talking about this game, people can't stop playing this game, and some people are just barely learning what a pronoun is. Gamers and critics are raving about this game. Let's see what the community is saying. Starfield is the best single-player gaming experience I've ever had. You should be arrested trying to hate on this masterpiece of a game. Dated graphics, missing numerous basic settings, terrible AI. Copy and paste buildings and enemies, long loading screens everywhere, no vehicles, flying a filler, Xbox 360 looking NPCs, bugs and glitches everywhere mid-story, has all the makings of an average game with a score below 8. The best single-player game ever. Breathtaking. Starfield Combat 100 emoji fire emoji. Bethesda tricked us into supporting a game that acknowledges the existence of pronouns. Gamers wouldn't have bought Starfield if we knew it might include social commentary. I never cared for Starfield. The people have spoken, and I can concur that Starfield is definitely the greatest space RPG Bethesda game released in September in the year 2003 on the Xbox and PC, priced at $70 and available on Game Pass. Ever released, and it's not even close. Oh, Xbox and Bethesda are so back. This is just Minecraft. Oh wait, never mind. This is definitely a Bethesda game. Let's get this out of the way. First and foremost, Starfield is not, and I repeat not, a space exploration game. It is in fact an RPG that so happens to take place in space. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, what's the difference between the two? And to that I answer, I don't know. It sounded better in my head. So let me explain. If you were expecting a true open world space game with millions of worlds to explore and millions of things to do, build and collect in an endless universe, then you'll be disappointed to find out that this game isn't for you to experience those things. Starfield is through and through a Bethesda title. Interpret that how you will, but it's clear that this game wasn't meant to push any new boundaries. It's simple really. Bethesda wanted to create an experiment with the new IP, but they weren't going to revolutionize the RPG genre with this game. And they especially weren't going to move away from their classic RPG elements that so many of us are familiar with. I'll save just in case things get hairy.
Look here.
Yep, things got hairy. I've seen so much criticism regarding the expectations of this game. Some people were expecting No Man's Sky with a Mass Effect level of story and Star Citizen levels of ship control, but what they get instead is Fallout in space. To those people I say, Starfield is Bethesda in space. And if you were expecting any more than that, well, you've been playing the wrong games. With that being said, if you've played any recent Fallout or Elder Scrolls games, then you'll probably feel a sense of familiarity when you touch Starfield because it's basically a new coat of paint. So the question I have for you all is, how much do you value this gimmick? Because that will probably determine your overall enjoyment of this game. As for me, it took around 20 hours of playtime for the Bethesda fatigue to start kicking in. Funny considering I haven't touched a Bethesda title since Fallout 4 almost 7 years ago. But not surprising considering that this game has the most repetitive story missions out there. It's a good thing I diverted from the story and started doing other things because I dreaded completing any more story-related content. But at least the bugs kept the game interesting for me when the story wasn't. Good old Bethesda. Hello, sir? Where are your clothes? Hello? Is this a bug? Did my nudity mod from Skyrim transfer over to Starfield or something? Wow, I guess Bethesda really does know what we want. I'm sure we're all familiar with the expression, Jack of all trades, master of none. Well, Starfield encapsulates this saying to a T. This has been such an impressive year for games, that it's almost unfair that games like Starfield are released in a time where, if you're not actively shifting trends, then You're not considered a good game? Dead Space, Metroid Prime, and Resident Evil all raise the standards of remastered games, while games like Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and Final Fantasy XVI emanate and flaunt their production value. I'm not saying that Starfield is bad or not worthy of Game of the Year status, but man, what a lineup to compete against. It's also a time where video games are now increasing their prices, meaning we, as the consumer, are starting to expect some changes in quality or else we'll just spend our money elsewhere. All this combined makes Starfield an average to above average game in my eyes feel rough to say the least, and if it wasn't for Game Pass and Bethesda's track record of glitches and bugs on release, then I would have probably waited until this game was on sale to play, given that there is no urgency to buy this game. Look, what I'm trying to say is that average doesn't cut it anymore at full price, and while I certainly don't mind average, it doesn't mean I can't criticize it in areas where I believe it can do better. I've sunk around 50 hours into this game, about 15 hours relegated to the story, and the rest doing side quests and exploring the game. My main criticism with this game is how sluggish everything feels. I'm not talking about performance because it actually wasn't all that bad. I played on Ultra at 1440p at 60 FPS, and switched to 1080p on medium settings when recording with minimal issues. There were some frame rate issues present, like when I was in combat, my frames would dip anytime I zoomed in or out with the scoped weapon, or when I would land on a planet and it would stutter for a few seconds, but I only crashed twice throughout my entire session. So, good job Bethesda, you've done the minimum, and beat the allegations. The game ran fine, but it seemed like everything else tried to slow me down one way or another. Though my real concerns came down to just how many load screens the game has, the perk progression, menu navigation, and the carry weight. There seems to be a load screen for just about everything. Opening a door, entering a city, entering your ship, docking on a ship, entering that same ship, activating your hyperdrive, landing on a planet, entering a cave. Like I said, the game runs well, so loading was quick. But let me just play the damn game without seeing a loading screen every 20 seconds. When I'm not stuck in a loading screen, you can probably find me trying to navigate the menus because why is there so much clicking to get to where I want to go? Am I navigating the wonders of space or am I navigating a menu today? I gotta ask, did Bethesda playtest any of this? Do they not know their player base are a bunch of hoarders? Alright, I'll upgrade my ship to get some more storage. Requires level 2 shipbuilding skill. I'm still trying to comprehend the reasoning as to why there isn't a separate ship leveling system. Like, why do I need to invest my skill points to make my ship turn faster, carry more storage, add more storage on my ship, when I can be using those points on my playable character and make the game more fun for myself? Listen, bump up the carry capacity to say 300 seems feasible, have ship and player skills separated, and cut the load screens in half. I don't need to see myself grav jump, exit the jump, click on the planet menu, and then see another load screen of me landing. It gets repetitive real fast. Speaking of repetition, the story is... well, I'm just gonna say it, I did not enjoy the story. It's undeniably a slow burn, but in order for you to get there, you need to play through some of the most uninteresting and repetitive missions I have ever seen. Actually, maybe repetitive isn't the right word. Unoriginal sounds better since they all involve you doing the same task, which is collecting an artifact. I don't know any other game that can get away with the boring 5 to 10 hour story introduction and have people still defend it by saying it gets better. I needed things to get better 5 hours ago. The last couple of story quests are so cool and unique, but I can't say it was worth the wait. Though I'm happy to say that the side quests and faction quests are still incredibly interesting, fun, and rewarding, which is to be expected coming from a Bethesda open world game. But if I have to sit through one more trailing sequence where the NPC is walking slower than my default walking speed, I think I'm gonna lose it. Combat is surprisingly fun. The boost pack and low gravity areas add so much verticality and movement to a series of games that is known for being slow. It's honestly great being able to zip around the area not being glued to the floor. It makes close quarter combat feel very fluid, since you're able to close the gap much quicker and reach heights much faster than before. You can use this new height to scout the area for enemies and loot, and reposition yourself faster when the fight begins, though it is still a bit clunky in some areas. Most notably, the enemy AI still has trouble deciding whether to attack you or to stare at you. I've played on the hard difficulty, and found it to be very balanced when it was working. In some parts, I was breezing through areas, switching between all the weapons I had, but as soon as I started to get too cocky, the game would punish me. Stealth was a bit difficult to play because it seemed like the enemy AI would respond too quickly to any sound and movement you made. But maybe I was just spoiled with how easy it was to sneak around in games like Skyrim. which led me to overestimate my tactics. However, no matter what changes I did, I could not for the life of me adjust to ship combat. Flight controls felt very smooth and polished, and ship combat for the most part can be avoided entirely through investing enough points into persuasion and the speed of your ship's grav drive. But if you're anything like me, and chose not to spend any points on the ship skill tree, then you can really feel the impact the ships leave on you during combat. This goes back to my main issue where the player skills and ship skills are mashed together, requiring you to invest into the ship skill tree to avoid situations like these. Because of how integral ship combat and flight is to this game, investing in the ship skill tree almost becomes a necessity, especially in the higher difficulty playthroughs where ships obliterate you in seconds. Listen, I understand. If I don't put any points into the ship skill tree, I'm obviously gonna have a difficult time in space. But I also don't want to be forced to spend 12 levels just to stand a chance. Where is the freedom in that? Especially with how slow the grind is to level up without having to resort to outpost grinding midway through the game. I felt my build was suffering mid-game because my focus shifted to allocating points towards my ship. If the ship skills had their own XP system and point system, then honestly this wouldn't even be an issue. Wow, it sounds like you're complaining a lot. Did you even enjoy the game? Yeah, I did. The ship customization took me by surprise. I spent a couple hours playing with the ship builder just tinkering with the options. It takes a bit of patience and practice to learn the system, but once you grasp the fundamentals, it's fascinating to see what you can build and get away with. Exploring was also quite fun. While the auto-generated caves and buildings were lackluster, the scripted areas you travel to for some of the side quests are amazing. You can get lost for hours in some of these cities, just exploring and seeing what the game has to offer. It's always fun entering a giant underground factory or a guarded facility or storming a space station, blasting all the enemies and looting the place clean, never knowing what you're gonna find. There's also this nice calming aura in this game that I can't really describe. It's like when you're playing Minecraft late at night, just exploring and collecting materials, except now, you're getting lost on these planets and moons you'll probably never remember the names of. And as you're walking, and you look up at the night sky, and see the billions of stars in the horizon, some that have yet to be explored, or never will, this heartfelt sadness and curiosity of the unknown is exactly what I wanted to feel coming from this game. I'm glad to see Bethesda are still masters at environmental storytelling. I love the little things they leave behind for you to find, and to give you a sense of Sonder, that every random thing you come across has a story as complex as yours. The little notes you find, the cryptic scribbles on the walls, the recordings people leave behind on planets, they all tell a story. How long has it been since someone found this area? If anyone made it out, will you ever see them? Or will you find the remains next to their valuables? Starfield is a very difficult game to review at the moment. It's not breaking any boundaries we haven't seen, nor is it flawless. A $70 price tag, some steep competition, and big expectations from a big studio certainly leave this game in a tough state at the moment. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I think I still enjoy the Elder Scrolls fantasy setting and Fallout's lore a bit more than Starfield's, but they all have years of development over Starfield, so I can't be too harsh on it in that regard. Still, I give Bethesda credit in trying something new, and I'd even call it a success. It will be interesting to see if Starfield will develop into its own series alongside the other games, or if this is a one-time experiment for Bethesda. Love to see a sequel honestly, and see what the DLC has to offer. I gave this game the old college try, and while I enjoyed it for the most part, I think I'm ready to move on for now.